Yeah, well, when the proposal was made, nobody in the UN or even in our Ministry of External Affairs was aware that this was going to be made. So it's 27 September 2014 when our Prime Minister requested the General Assembly to have 21st June every year declared as the International Day of Yoga. That meant that the implementation of this proposal was to be done by the Permanent Mission of India in New York. And one of the advantages of a proposal which doesn't have a long background and is that it is a fresh proposal. And therefore, the response of our partners in the General Assembly would also be a fresh response. And I think that that helped us to actually decide on two or three things in our campaign to get this implemented. The first was that since there was no background, we didn't have to go to any of the committees of the General Assembly, but we could go directly into the General Assembly plenary. And that helped us to compress the time frame a lot, because if an issue goes to a committee, it takes its own time and then it's voted out of the committee and then considered in the General Assembly. So we didn't have to face that time obstacle. The second thing that happened was that we had to choose an existing item on the General Assembly's agenda approved that year. Otherwise, this would have to be inscribed for the next year. So when we looked at the approved agenda of the General Assembly that year, we found that the Prime Minister's proposal would fit very nicely with discussions on global health. And at that time, in 2014, we had just completed discussing the Sustainable Development Goals. And there is a Sustainable Development Goal specially focused on health. So we decided that this proposal for declaring an International Day of Yoga should be considered under the existing agenda item of the General Assembly on global health. And that meant that the item would be approved by the General Assembly in December. So we gave ourselves this time frame of working to have this idea discussed and then agreed to between the end of September and December 2014. And this was a decision taken by us in the permanent mission, because obviously these are the issues which the all permanent missions in New York have to know and have to deal with. The third decision that we had to take was how to get a majority of the members of the General Assembly to agree to this proposal. Because since it was a proposal of a general nature, we needed to have a majority in the General Assembly to agree to adopt it. And in the 193 member General Assembly, a majority meant 97 countries had to agree to adopt it. So these were the three big considerations that were in our mind when I and my team of 8 diplomats had decided to go out into the field and bat to have this proposal adopted and to succeed in it. And I must say that when we look back, all these three issues that we identified ourselves actually played a very important role in having the proposal discussed and adopted in a record of 75 days. I think that is a record for any such proposal in the United Nations General Assembly, that they have never had, and I think after that they have not had a proposal which has been adopted within 75 days and by 177 co-sponsors. So that meant that all 193 countries agreed, because it's a unanimous resolution. And out of the 193, 177 member states of the General Assembly became co-sponsors, which meant that they also took ownership of the Prime Minister's idea to declare International Yoga Day. Now, when we began to convene the meetings of the General Assembly informally, and that was left to India as the initiator of this idea, we found that the response was very, very supportive. And it was supportive for 2 or 3 reasons. One was that yoga by itself is a way of life which is practiced not only in India but in many other parts of the world. And that was a voyage of discovery for me and my colleagues, because, for example, when the ambassador of Mozambique said he wanted to co-sponsor, on his country wanted to co-sponsor this proposal, he explained that in Mozambique, yoga was very popular because they were using yoga to develop tourism along their coast of the Indian Ocean. So, you know, I had not heard of such a link between yoga and tourism, but obviously in Mozambique, this was a very popular activity. And similarly, there were countries where yoga was very popular on the ground. I mean, we were in New York, and in New York for 10 years before the Prime Minister's proposal, every year on June 21st, the Association of Shops at Times Square, which is the heart of Manhattan, had themselves voluntarily been conducting yoga by blocking off the streets of Times Square and making them into a yoga practice space. So I think that this kind of support played a role in getting this enthusiasm and the energy. And you have to really sit in these meetings to understand that there was a positive energy which went into supporting this idea. So it was, as we said, an idea whose time had come. And therefore that was very important. Now, in terms of the actual support and the co-sponsorship, and there was no voting, so the co-sponsorship was an important indicator. We found that a lot of countries which became co-sponsors were areas where there had been a strong influence of the Indian diaspora or of Indian non-governmental organizations which were active in propagating yoga. And therefore, we got support from the Pacific Islands, we got support from Latin America. These are regions where politically, we have never looked at the kind of support that is there for an idea like yoga. And I think that this played a role in actually increasing the number of co-sponsors who came forward and said that, no, we would also like to be part of the resolution when it is adopted. And the only issue, and that's an issue which happens with the United Nations system, is that the question was asked by some delegations that where would the budget come from? And the answer to that question, and that is a very interesting and important point, I think, is that the answer to that question was that these activities would be commemorated every year on 21st of June through voluntary contributions. So there was no impact on the United Nations general budget to set aside some funds for marking the International Yoga Day. Instead, it was a ground-up approach. It was based on voluntary contributions. And when you see every year when the International Yoga Day is marked, you see how it has expanded. I mean, there are countries where thousands, tens of thousands of people have actually come out to mark the International Yoga Day, and they are doing it voluntarily. They arrange their own transportation, their mats, their equipment, and of course they bring themselves. So this shows that the idea was not only an idea for governments in the General Assembly who were represented as member states, but it was also an idea which had a tremendous support from outside the member states, on the ground, and especially from the non-governmental and civil society, youth and women. So, this was a good example of how the United Nations can actually have an initiative which reflects the words of the UN Charter, which begin with "We the Peoples." So the Yoga Day initiative is actually a good example of how to implement the idea in the UN Charter of "We the Peoples," because it is a combined multiple stakeholder activity. And I think that on the 11th of December, when I had to introduce the draft of the resolution to the General Assembly and propose that it should be adopted, it was a very proud day for us as a country, of course, because we were able to implement a proposal made by our Prime Minister within 75 days. But it was also a very proud day for those of us who worked in the multilateral system, because it showed that the system was responsive to ideas which were inclusive, which were forward-looking, and which were meant to improve the relationship between man and nature, and improve the health of both humanity as well as of nature, because this is something that does not really impact on adversely on the environment or create any other issues. So I think that in both these perspectives, it was a very proud moment, 11th of December in the morning, when I stood at the podium of the General Assembly and proposed that a draft resolution co-sponsored by 177 member states should be adopted. And that sense of pride, those of the people who saw the webcast, because the United Nations TV had webcast this, when you hear the names of all the co-sponsors, I think it's the only resolution which has taken more time to be adopted because of going through the names of 177 co-sponsoring countries than because of the content of the resolution, because the content was absolutely not controversial. And when it was gavelled, it was a very, very proud moment for all of us. And I'm glad that I was able to be in New York, leading our team, and our very gifted diplomats who all had an extensive network of friends who all responded so positively. So that was what I remember, and I wanted to say about how this proposal was proposed and adopted. Thank you. Well, about yoga itself, as I think it just confirms that this is something that it's an activity which transcends and is of a global character. In the course of discussing this idea with my colleagues from the United States, was very pleasantly surprised to hear that Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple company, which is today one of the largest companies in the world, had unfortunately contracted a disease and died early. But in his instructions on his funeral, he had instructed that each of the guests invited for his funeral should be gifted a copy of the autobiography of a yogi. And that showed that even in the heart of what others would consider the materialist Western civilization, a company like Apple, you have in the vision of the founder of this huge company, the core of thinking of what we call yoga, the thought of yoga. And this is something that I think was an important reflection of a contribution of India to the global traditions, which was reflected and given back. So sometimes it is said, in giving you receive. And I think in the case of the International Yoga Day, by giving the idea, we received the confirmation that there was a tremendous support and an acceptance of this idea in all parts of the world. I mean, for example, one of the first co-sponsors was China. And I remember thinking of this idea and saying that I should ask the ambassador of China whether he would like to co-sponsor this proposal of our Prime Minister. And he met me in his embassy, and he looked at it, and we both discussed on how there was a link between the teaching of yoga in school in Shanghai and the teaching of Tai Chi in a school in New Delhi. And that had been focused upon during the visit, the first state visit of the new president of China, President Xi Jinping. And President Xi Jinping's wife actually visited the school in New Delhi, and there was a demonstration of the linkage between yoga and Tai Chi. So with this background, the Chinese ambassador sent this idea to to Beijing, and within a few days he got the approval of his government to become a co-sponsor. And at that time, of course, we were looking at so many linkages between India and the rest of the world. And one of the biggest linkages between India and China was brought through Buddhism. And as Nepal said when the resolution was adopted, the greatest practitioner of yoga in Nepal and in their tradition is the Lord Buddha, whom they call the Sakya Muni. So this is something that is of a common interest to our civilization and our culture, and we tapped into it. And I think that it showed that, and it provided the background to the focus that we have consistently made, and that our Prime Minister made this year at the United Nations General Assembly, of India acting for global welfare. And when people ask what is the meaning of this global welfare, I think the International Yoga Day is a good example of how we take initiatives in the United Nations which can actually help humanity, and to which the rest of humanity responds in a constructive way. The same with the International Solar Alliance initiative, the use of the energy of the sun as a renewable source of energy to offset the concerns to the environment caused by the use of fossil fuels. Similarly, these are initiatives which we have of course now put in the forefront in our participation during the 75th anniversary high-level meetings. But I think that they really demonstrate India's diplomatic standing, and also they demonstrate how this is accepted by the vast majority of the United Nations General Assembly. Thank you.